America's forum to talk politics, and in recent years, Kansas has bled red. But this year, conservatives in the Sunflower State are being challenged in both the Senate and gubernatorial races by, well, in one case, a Democrat, in another case, an independent, giving the GOP a run for its money. In the gubernatorial campaign, my old congressional colleague Sam Brownback, the incumbent, neck and neck in his re-election fight against Democrat State Rep Paul Davis. And surveys suggest that Republican incumbent Pat Roberts is trailing, quote, independent Greg Orman in the race for the Senate. So what is going to transpire in Kansas? Let's talk about it now, getting the perspective of the left and the right. For the Republicans, Skyping in from Washington, strategist Ford O'Connell, and from the left, ostensibly with no dog in the fight, but as a columnist, he's got his own opinions, checking in from Newsday, Ellis Henican. Gentlemen, to you both, thanks for your time.
It's always great to be with you, JD.
Hi, Ford.
All right, guys, good to have you. Let me begin with Ford. Kansas, I thought that it would be a just easy pickings for Republicans. What's going on with Sam Brownback in his race for re-election as governor?
Well, Sam Brownback's in a very different situation than Pat Roberts. Sam Brownback, basically the state is unhappy with his policies. It's going in the toilet, so he's finding himself in a real tough re-election fight. Pat Roberts is in a wholly different boat. He basically, grassroots conservatives in Kansas do not like Pat Roberts because they see him more as a creature of Washington than as Kansas. And frankly, his bruising primary with Tea Partier Milton Wolf has left him as damaged goods. And now he's basically facing an independent who's really a Democrat in the plant for Harry Reid. And he's got a dogfight on his hands. And if Republicans lose Kansas, they may not take the Senate.
So you got that situation. Ellis, are we going to see truth in labeling from Greg Orman? He plans to caucus with the Democrats if he gets elected to the Senate. Is he going to come out and say that to Kansas voters?
Well, you know, I'm not honestly quite as sure that he's so sure about that yet. He has not joined the Democratic Party. He's not running as a Democrat. His political background really is, I would say, more murky than it is left-leaning. Hey, here's my take on it. I mean, the current incumbent, right? I mean, he's clearly not somebody who is in tune well with the people of Kansas. And you know what? I think a lot of Kansans figured, well, we'll roll the dice on the other guy.
Well, Ellis, actually, I do have to say one thing. Orman did run as a Democrat in 2008, and he has donated to Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. He is basically playing the right way.
Doesn't mean anything.
Wait a minute. Now, wait a minute, Ellis. If a guy has that on his resume, he can't hide from it. He ran as a Democrat.
Listen, you all might have forgotten. There was another Democrat in the race. I forget what happened to him, but I don't even think he's in the race anymore.
Yeah, let's talk about that Democrat, Ellis. That's a very good point. I have never seen a race in my life where the Democratic nominee in a major race decided to voluntarily withdraw and then try to legally take his name off the ballot just so he could help the independent who, oh, by the way, has hired a lot of campaign hands who are Democrats.
Oh, hold on a second. Maybe we should praise his openness. Listen, from my point of view, I think it's wonderful when Republicans are all fighting with each other, right? The Tea Party can't stand Senator Roberts. They're bringing in all these name-brand establishment Republicans from Washington who seem to have no resonance with average Kansans. Even Republican Kansans don't really seem to like all those brand name Republicans coming in from the Capitol. It is truly a self-inflicted wound that Kansas Republicans have inserted upon themselves, and they're going to pay for it.
Kansas has not elected a Democratic United States Senator since 1930.
Just watch.
Just made the understatement of the year. The key for Roberts is, can he mend fences with a conservative base, and can he take the spotlight off himself and turn it on Orman and basically say he's a liberal masquerading as an independent? If he can do that, he can win. It's a tall task because, let's be honest, Roberts doesn't even have a house in Kansas. So it's going to be a very interesting race.
Well, and
you'd agree that's going to be a pretty tough sell. I mean, I know they're meeting today trying to mend some fences with the Tea Party folks, but
well, it's not only
it looks like a pretty tough one.
Here's something else. Pat Roberts is going to have to break out a Ouija board and basically click his heels twice like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz and say there's no place like Kansas because the Supreme Court in Kansas is going to decide whether or not they're going to put a Democrat back on the ballot. And if they do that, that'll siphon votes away from Orman. So right now, Pat Roberts is really in a lot of trouble.
Okay, and that court intervention could have a handle in what happens in the courtroom of public opinion or what happens in the midterm in a couple of weeks. Let's move Senate races. Go to the Northeast, the live free or die state, New Hampshire. Jeanne Shaheen facing Scott Brown, the former Massachusetts senator. Can Brown prevail in this race? What about it, Ford?
Well, I hope Brown can prevail, but I'll tell you this. If Brown does prevail, Mitch McConnell will be doing an Irish jig because essentially he'll be wielding the gavel as the majority leader. If Scott Brown wins, the floodgates will be opening, and the Republicans will take control of the Senate regardless of whether or not they lose Kansas.
Well, that image of the Republican leader as a leprechaun dancing a jig is dancing through my head right now. Ellis, I would imagine that you have a different point of view. You think Jeanne Shaheen is just A-OK.
Well, no, listen, it's a squeaker of a race. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that it's a very tight race. Anyone who tells you, JD, right now that they know who's going to win it is lying to you. You know, neither one of those candidates is perfect. I mean, Jeanne Shaheen does have deep roots in the state. She's been holding office in New Hampshire since most of us were children, I think. And, you know, Scott Brown has a little bit of a carpetbagger thing coming from Massachusetts. But New Hampshire's not that kind of state. I mean, listen, and he's a, you know, relatively moderate Republican candidate. I really think it could go either way. I don't love either one of them, but I don't pretend to know.
The Senate race for the unloved, at least as Ellis sees this. Ford, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is Scott Brown had been cutting the lead, but in the last couple of weeks, it looks like the race is slipping away. There are 34 days to go. Anything can happen. But I'll be honest with you. We are more likely to, the Republican Party is more likely to pick up a seat in Iowa and Colorado and 6 other seats that basically Mitt Romney won by 14 points or more. If New Hampshire does come around, it will then be called 2014 a wave election for Republicans.
Wow. Well, that's worth noting. Just 30 seconds to you both on this whole concept. For years, we've heard that if voters are undecided, they will break about 4-1 for the challenger. Do you think that that conventional wisdom holds up in this upcoming midterm? Ellis, to you first.
Well, listen, everybody hates incumbents right now. So, I mean, I would go race by race. You tell me who the incumbent is, and I'll tell you which way they're going to break. 4-1 seems like a big number, but clearly you got to nail it down quicker than some of these incumbents
Fair
are
enough.
doing
15 seconds to you, Ford. Last word.
It certainly could break towards Republicans, but the other thing is they may not show up, so therefore you better have a good get-out-the-vote operation because a lot of these races are going to be 1 to 2 points.
Fair enough. Ford O'Connell and Ellis Henican, we thank you for your insights. Look forward to having you back real soon. America's Forum continues after this Newsmax Now update.
Omar Gonzalez, the man accused of jumping the White House fence, is expected to appear in court today. Gonzalez faces federal and local charges that could send him to prison for more than a decade. And there are new reports today of another embarrassing breach for the Secret Service. An armed security contractor with a criminal record rode in an elevator with President Obama earlier this month. In Pennsylvania now, police say they found pipe bombs stashed away at a camp while searching for suspected cop killer Eric Matthew Freen. Meanwhile, prosecutors in California are looking to charge the wife of Bell Gardens Mayor Dan Crespo. This after she shot and killed the mayor during a domestic dispute. And finally, in New Jersey, Governor Chris Christie is watching his poll numbers drop. The latest poll says only 46% of respondents approve of the governor's job performance. I'm Olga Villaverdi. We'll have another update at the top of the hour.